Hey everyone, this is Mayor Glenn Grandis, and this is this week's Mayor's Message. This is where we go over what happened at the last City Council meeting, what happened at the last Planning Commission meeting, and what's coming up at the next City Council meeting. So let's jump right into what happened at the last City Council meeting. The first thing is we had a study session, and the study session was on the upcoming budget, the potential for our budget for the next fiscal year, which starts on July 1st. So we're looking at an operational surplus of just over $1 million for the next fiscal year. That's good news. And some other things is the last two fiscal years prior, we had surpluses of $12 million per year. So over the last 3 years, we've had a surplus close to $25 million. This upcoming year, we have some capital improvement projects, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. So at the last council meeting, we had a lot of presentations. It was a really good event for that. The first one was Public Works Week. So we proclaimed and had a resolution for May 19th through 25th as Public Works Week. And then it was really my pleasure to give the City of Kindness Award to Nora Little. She does so much for our community. She is in charge of all the bands at Summerfest, and she works from the beginning to the very end without leaving and just does such a great job for everybody in the community. She also does so much she did Relay for Life, for the poker tournament. I could go on and on. She's just a wonderful volunteer, and it was great to celebrate her. Next, we had an award from the Fountain Valley Community Foundation and Hyundai Motor America for the PD drone program. So the police department is going to be adding 2 new drones, and that really helps with being able to have safety. So if there's a perpetrator on top of the building, we could send the drone up, and there's a lot of good uses for it. The Community Foundation donated $10,000, and Hyundai Motor America donated $4,000 towards this. We really appreciate both of those organizations and their help. And then we also had a certificate of recognition for our Fountain Valley High School dance team, the band, and the choir. They've been winning so many awards out there, and we wanted to make sure that we recognize them at the City Council meeting. Now, the big thing that came up is we had a public hearing. The public hearing was in regards to the Planning Commission's denial of McDonald's at the Village Center over on Talbert and Magnolia. That's where we are here today. Also, the City Council approved a new user fee schedule. We haven't updated the fees in Fountain Valley since 2017. Some of the fees went up, most of them stayed the same, and some of them even went down. Then we had to approve that donation of the $14,000 and approve the purchase of the drones. Now let's talk about what happened at the last Planning Commission meeting. There were 2 items. One was a CUP, a conditional use permit, was approved for a 1,200 square foot Pilates studio, the first Pilates studio in Fountain Valley called Live Meta. And that will be located in the Fountain Valley Promenade. We also had a CUP go to AT&T to add a wireless 50-foot monopine and associated equipment that's going to be located in the Miles Square Plaza at the southwest corner of Brookhurst and Heil. Now let's talk about what's coming up at the next City Council meeting. The first is we're going to be talking about a study session. The study session is the Fire Station 1. If you're not aware, the fire station across the street from the high school is going to close, and we're building a new fire station over kind of behind the Sizzler, Bouchard, and Warner along the freeway area there. So when I talked about having some surpluses, we're going to be using some of the capital funds we have from that to help build the fire station. We're also going to look at CityNet and a new contract. CityNet does our unhoused population outreach. So they've done a really good job over the last year, and we're going to consider them to renew them for another year. The other thing is that we have a bunch of policy updates. So we're going to be doing a public notification of all of our policy updates. Now let's talk about upcoming events. So the first one, that's this upcoming weekend, is the Crawfish Festival. If you haven't been there before, ton of fun. There's rides, there's music, and there's a lot of food and crawfish. And that'll be on the 17th through the 19th. And then also on the 18th, we're going to have an e-waste and shredding event from 9 to 12 over at the Rec Center. On Monday, May 27th, Memorial Day, we're going to have a flag raising over at Veterans Park. That's right next to the library, kind of behind City Hall, Los Alamos Street and Slater. And that'll be from 10 to 12. And then over at the Senior Center, we're going to have a Mamma Mia luncheon. So that's the Senior Center on May 28th at 1:30. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to invite Todd Huber from Paragon and talk about what's going on in the shopping center. Okay, we're here with Todd Huber, Vice President of the Ownership Group for Paragon, who owns the shopping center. So Todd, first off, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. So we want to talk about the new McDonald's that is coming into the shopping center here. Yep. First off, why don't you take us through what's going to happen with the existing buildings and where the McDonald's is going to be?
So we're standing right in front of the general area where McDonald's will build their future building. Former Beach Cities Dog Camp, former Taekwondo studio, roughly 9,600 square feet of building that will be demolished and will be replaced by a 3,800 square foot McDonald's drive-through building. So we're excited. We're right in front of it, right adjacent to the Sprouts, to orient you guys right off of Albert.
Well, you guys have owned it since, how long have you owned the shopping center now?
So we've owned it since 2021. We've been working on it since March of 2020 when things kind of fell apart, and we worked with the ownership group to eventually close on the property in August of 2021.
Well, we've seen definitely an uptick in the shopping center, so we do appreciate that. Let me talk about some of the concerns that were raised about the potential new McDonald's. First off, the neighbors, that's the most important thing behind us. Can you tell us about some of the mitigation efforts that you guys are putting in place to try to make sure we be the best neighbors we can be?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important to start off with just we started this process back in May of 2022 with McDonald's, and there were 3 city meetings out here where we met with neighbors, heard a lot of their concerns. Obviously, when we come in and we buy neighborhood centers by virtue of the definition is in a neighborhood. So surrounded by residential uses, residents, and we really pride ourselves on working out and working through issues so that we can have a center that's successful for the city, for our tenants, for our residents, and for up and down the line. And a lot of the concerns were raised around, traffic and noise and sound and odor. So going down the list, the first mitigation McDonald's put out there and is going to be building is an 8-foot sound wall. So right now there's the CMU wall that's on the property line of the residents in their backyard. There's the full drive aisle, which call it roughly 26 feet wide. And then there'll be an 8-foot sound wall that McDonald's will construct out of CMU that'll further buffer the noise. In addition, on the noise front, the drive-through queuing, the drive-through kiosk was a concern late at night when things are quiet, and when Albert's maybe a little bit more quiet, that they would hear that. McDonald's has, from corporate level, not done inside the store, the volume on that automatically adjusts to the ambient noise around it. And then once you hit a nighttime hour, we'll go down to a certain decibel level that'll be quieter than a library, and obviously quieter than the traffic right along Albert. So from the noise standpoint, they've done a really good job of mitigating that, bringing the building as far as they can from the residents, and then adding some additional landscaping buffer that was added after those neighborhood meetings to further buffer the noises from the neighbors there.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys doing that. The other question is just the traffic of the shopping center. So right now we've got Dutch Bros that came in, had 4 times the opening I think anybody expected. Talk about how what you think the future of those lines are going to be.
Yeah, and obviously timing is everything. Our original planning commission where we were declined at planning commission was February 14th. Dutch Bros had their grand opening of their first store in Orange County February 9th. And while we planned and Dutch Bros has just an incredible fan base that it was going to be a big opening, you never expect 4 times one of their best grand openings in the country. So it was an incredible showing by Orange County, by the city of Fountain Valley. It presented challenges for us as an owner and to help mitigate. We stood there February 14th, said we're going to get through it. We understand it's a major issue. And obviously we came back last week and had videos done. And I sit and I stare at the cameras and make sure that it is being mitigated. And we're at an area now where, at peak times we have some lines, but good news is it's fully contained within our shopping center. It's no longer within the footprint of the McDonald's and the kind of the circulation of the McDonald's. And if you drive down 3/4 of a mile at Magnolia and Warner, Dutch Bros is under construction going vertical on their second store in Fountain Valley. It's a great credence to the city that Dutch Bros wanted to put their first 2 Orange County locations right here in Fountain Valley.
One thing too with the Dutch Bros is that they're opening another dozen at least locations throughout Orange County. Right now, it was the first in Orange County, so we're definitely hoping by the time McDonald's goes in that area of it, the issues of traffic and such will be mitigated. The other thing too is that the queuing lines for McDonald's, I understand, holds 10 cars.
That's right. Yeah, and that's like from order window to the enclosed area of their queuing.
Okay. And I think they said based on the other 2 McDonald's, the worst they've seen is 14 cars. So
that's right.
Hopefully that will be mitigated as well. Okay, so what about timing? When will we see stuff happening?
Yeah, so McDonald's is obviously raring to go. We spent our time, we were thorough in the design process. Now they'll kick off their construction drawing. So I would anticipate they'll be into the city for plan check. So when you start looking at the technical aspects of their drawings, sometime in June, what we see in our experience is plan check generally takes 3 to 4 months. So let's call it October is when they're permit ready, and their construction period's 5 to 6 months. So you're looking at like a spring 2024, 2025 opening. Okay. So they're obviously raring to go. We are as well. Vacancy is never good, but now that they're through the entitlement process, they will be getting started here shortly.
And what about the buildings behind us? When will those be raised?
Those will be as soon as they're permit ready. So McDonald's will handle that as part of their construction. My guess is that construction starts in, call it October-ish. That'll be the first thing. They'll come in, they'll demo the buildings, and then they'll start to grade it for their building. But that'll happen hopefully this fall. All
right. And hopefully the other Dutch Bros in Fountain Valley, which will be at Magnolia and Warner, will be built by then. So hopefully that will help too. So let's talk about the businesses. I was concerned about the other businesses within the shopping center. How do they feel about McDonald's coming in?
Yeah, we talk about how a shopping center is an ecosystem, right? You need quality national tenants like Sprouts and Dollar Tree, and you need quality regional tenants, call it like a Dutch Brothers, and they all work together, right? They all feed off each other. Sprouts wouldn't be here if we hadn't come in and invested in the balance of the center. Without Sprouts, you wouldn't have Dutch Bros. Without Dutch Bros, you wouldn't have McDonald's, and without all those tenants, we wouldn't have been able to go through and renew 8 of those small businesses that bring up a center like this. A community center, a neighborhood center, isn't just national tenants. You've got to have great small mom and pop tenants. This center specifically, what drew us here was the longevity of these tenants. You have Union Fish and Chips, Jack Fish and Chips that have been here forever. You have Amici Pizza that's been here forever. These are stalwarts in our community, and this is what draws people into our center. So we're very cognizant of how the tenanting, how the merchandising of the center affects them. And luckily, we were able to come in and through our investment in the balance of the center, renew 8 of those tenants on 10+ year leases to make sure that they could reinvest back into their own business. I know there's a lot of talk on, Dutch Bros is really going to kill these mom and pops. Coming out of February, when Dutch Bros opened, we saw the biggest sales, that we get sales reporting from those tenants each month, biggest sales on record that we have for those tenants. So when we talk about how these national tenants feed these small tenants and vice versa, we saw it play out here. We expect McDonald's to do the same thing. We had letters of support from Sprouts, from our small businesses, at those hearings. These tenants all feed off of each other. You need a vibrant center. You need, customers that are going to come in. If your mom and your son come in and they are going to Kumon, they may end up at McDonald's and vice versa, right? So right. These are kind of ecosystems. We spend a lot of time worrying about how we merchandise them, and we feel we have a really good tenant mix here.
Okay, so it sounds like the businesses that are in the shopping center are in support of this.
That's right.
Because that was a concern. Let's talk about who will be the owner of the actual McDonald's. It's going to be a franchisee, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so basically when people talk about small business and McDonald's coming in, you have to understand that the McDonald's owner is a small business owner.
Yeah, so they have a unique model. We see it with other tenants like that, where corporate, they basically take all the heavy lifting, right? So they come in, they identify a site, they work with a developer like us to build their building, and then they select a franchisee from typically the local community. So if you talk to McDonald's, they'll say, we don't know exactly who it's going to be, but we have a good inkling that it's 1 or 2 people that are in the general area of Fountain Valley, so call it Fountain Valley. Huntington Beach, is someone, a local community. They select that at the point where they, are building a building, they have a business to hand over. And once it's built and, leases signed, building's built, they hand it off to a small business operator who runs it like their own business here at Fountain Valley.
All right. That's good to know. So I grew up across the street. I grew up right over, I practically see my house from here. I remember when it was the banks on the different ends. I remember there was a little photo batch kiosk right in the center too. And right across the street, I worked at the drive-through dairy. It's now a closed nursery, but back in the day, that was a drive-through dairy. But one of the big things was Thrifty and the Thrifty ice cream now, and then it became Rite Aid, and Rite Aid's closed. Maybe you could tell us about potentially what's going to happen there.
Yeah, so back in October, Rite Aid filed bankruptcy nationwide. So this wasn't unique to just the center. This was a really high-performing store. This was a store that we thought would be here through their bankruptcy, would come out of it. Obviously, you never know what goes into that. They decided to close the store. We're now at the point where we're re-tenanting that. This is hopefully what we bring to every center, is those relationships to backfill 18,000 square foot box with a great tenant. What we've talked about a lot is that we've reached out to probably over 100 tenants there, and a lot of them are asking, well, what's going to happen with McDonald's, right? These things we talk about how these are ecosystems. They all roll forward. So now with great news last week, we're going to be in Las Vegas at ICSC, a big convention for folks like me, talking to tenants, trying to identify a great tenant. In the meantime, we've been meeting with the store manager for Sprouts. We've been meeting with folks in the city to figure out what do they want here, right? We can't always deliver exactly what you want, but it's good to know what helps at Sprouts, right? And who better to talk to than the store manager at Sprouts to know who's a great co-tenant for you guys. So we're working through that now. We hope to have some good news here as we enter summer and the fall. That'll really be the last piece. We're really excited about the tenants we are adding. With Dr. Manfred will be moving over her orthodontist practice. Beautiful build out. It'll be literally the most incredible orthodontist office I've ever seen. We're bringing over a great nail salon. All small business operators will be absent the Rite Aid, really 100% occupied. So we're really excited. We think there's a lot of good momentum that'll help us land a great tenant for us, for the other tenants, for the residents, and for the city. All
right. Very good. All right. Well, that's the mayor's message for this week. Hopefully you found that informative, a little bit longer than we normally do, but a lot of good information to go over. I'm your Mayor, Glenn Grandis, and we'll see you next time.